The silence at home and the silence in the clinic or the bank are the same silence. One that stops you from asking your mom how she survived her menopause or where the family land titles are hidden. The other silence teaches you to think that when a doctor says it will be slightly uncomfortable or just breathe through the pain, that is normal. A lot of us have been taught from childhood to endure. Vumilia tu. If a doctor dismisses our pain, that's just poor bedside manner. When a partner or a husband locks us out of a joint account, that's a domestic dispute. When a widow loses her home, it's just a family conflict. This series begins by rejecting that story because what you will hear are not isolated experiences. They are connected by the same systems of power. Our first three conversations explore how women carry the economic weight of their families through relationships, caregiving, and widowhood, often without preparation, protection, or recognition. Welcome to We Were Not Taught.
My name is Nancy. I am an advocate. I work with protection of children. I work with survivors of gender-based violence. When I'm not working, I love singing. I play guitar. I love music. I really love music. And yeah, playing guitar gives me a lot of happiness. I am very extroverted. I love people. I love people. I love people. I love my family. I love my friends wholeheartedly. So that's basically who I am. I'm a singer and I'm an extrovert. Well, I will say growing up, my parents didn't expressly tell me, this is how you should handle money, this is how you should handle money. So most of my experience is just from observing what they did. So how I will see money was handled in my parents' relationship. My dad would, of course, take care of the big bills. And my mom would, buy groceries, buy our shoes, buy our uniforms. So my dad will technically take care of the big bills and my mom would take care of it's not so small bills. So even in my relationship, should I say I should expect the same way? What stood out for me is that they're supportive of each other. Yeah. So if let's say my dad will not be able to do something, my mom will come in and chip in. Yes. So I wouldn't say it's like a man should do this, a woman should do that. But I would expect my man to handle the big bills like rent. I would expect him to pay the rent and yeah, and maybe just the rent. I will say maybe I would expect him to pay the rent, take me on dates, of course, and pay for trips. Yeah, maybe we'll just handle the small bills like buying groceries in the house. I also reciprocate. I'm a person who reciprocates. I'm not just that person that I will want you to do everything for me. I mean, I love you. So I will also be inclined to do things for you. So I'm not a selfish person or I'm not, yes. And I believe in equality, but I will still want them yeah. So also if somebody wants to put up a business, invest in me, I mean, I would, or for us to invest together, I wouldn't mind. It's just that if you're not married, I feel like the risks will be a bit, okay, what if we split up? Okay, then now what happens to the business? I feel like I'll be wasting a lot of time or having to build up again. It's a lot, yeah, but I wouldn't mind. Luckily for me, he does not mind doing those things as well. So we find ourselves on the same page. And I don't have to ask him to do this or to do that. He feels like it is his obligation to take care of the big bills while I have to take care of the small bills. So I would say luckily for me, yeah. We've never had a conversation technically on that, but yeah, I'm equally supportive. If he's not able to handle something, I will also chip in. I think before I commit myself, I think it's good to have clear, not guidelines per se, but how you're going to operate while you're married. Like, what are you gonna do? What am I gonna do? What are you going to bring in? What am I going to bring in? So I think it's an important discussion to have when you're going to get married. Yeah, I think it's just I am flexible. I will say that. I don't think that I'm going to go there with a fixed mind. Yeah, and I think everybody should be flexible because life can turn around. And yeah, I don't think you should love someone just because they're providing for you. You should also be willing to support them when things get rough, and things can get rough. Yeah, so personally, I am flexible. Yes, I would expect you to do 1, 2, 3, but doesn't mean that when times get hard, I'm gonna run and leave you there. Yeah, so.
My name is Rachel Wamoto. I'm a mom, a wife, a humanitarian aid worker. I've been in the humanitarian sector with the UN for the last 20 years until last year. And currently I'm a trainer for cash and voucher assistance. I've been married for probably 25 years. So, I mean, I've been working from a very young age. So even by the time I got married, I had an income, and both my husband and I have been working people, but he had a larger income compared to mine. I was like 24 years, but it still played a role, in terms of household running, while he focused on the bigger investments. So it had a very crucial role in terms of the day-to-day expenses, and also just the ability to save for a rainy day, at work in the circles. So yes, it sat very well. Before going into the marriage, no, I don't think this is a discussion that happened. And also, perhaps I also got married quite young, at 24. So who are your peers and what are they telling you? At that point, your focus is very different when you're getting married. It's all other lessons except money. However, I think there was always that discussion of have your little money. I mean, maybe not really like formally taught, but in terms of always try and have some savings as a woman somewhere. Yeah. If I sat today and looked at the investments and the financial aspect, what is legally mine and what I can prove, in our arrangement, I think I can actually say 50%. Maybe, unless there's a hidden cost that you can not tell, but I would say I can, I can confidently say 50% in terms of legally proving that is ensuring that you are joined. You have joint ownership of the property or the bank account. So yes, so at least I'm sleeping at night, knowing that I feel secure in that area.
I don't know, but I would never invest with someone I'm not married to. So we don't have joint accounts with my boyfriend. We don't share any property together. And that's something that personally cannot take a risk, unless you're married. That's maybe I will want to explore that if and when you're married. But as for now, I will not honestly set up a joint account or anything. I mean, you're not sure that love is gonna last forever. Yeah. My parents were operating in sort of a patriarchal cultural point of view. So we'll say that my mom and my dad purchased the property, but you'll find the properties are in my father's name, which also from a legal point of view is very risky. Yeah, because now you find yourself, you have, in case of divorce, you have to go through matrimonial property disputes, and sometimes you have to prove your contribution towards that. So it becomes a bit challenging. So in the long term, that's something I will change in my relationship. Mm-hmm. If we purchase properties, I would want it to be registered jointly. Yes, so in case of disputes, things are just going to be split halfway, or regards to how much you contributed to the property. Yeah. Anyway, that's not to say that. I mean that does not preclude a woman from owning property as well, because the courts will always look at some factors and the contribution the woman has brought into the marriage. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just safe to register property in our names, but then it doesn't mean that the court will not grant me my rights. But it's just so hard because you have again to prove that you own this property together.
I think the steps that I took to get to a place where I am confident that I can actually say 50% is mine. We've not looked at financial discussions as lack of trust. It's really been, couldn't be, coming from maybe a place of fear in terms of, if I am not here today, it would be very sad for my husband not to know what I have, and vice versa. So these are discussions that we've constantly had over our marriage, and it has just, it's been building from a very long time ago. Because going back, I think it didn't take long. It didn't start like that. Everybody had their own bank accounts, but very early into the marriage, we started having a joint account, and the properties were bought jointly. But it's because we've had these discussions. It wasn't just coincidence that he woke up and decided that he's going to put my name, or I was buying a property and decided to. It was really in terms of how do we safeguard our children's interests as well, because God forbid if both of you are not here or I am not there, and what happens? I think there's a bit of gray area legally with some of these things around inheritance. So just being, cognizant about what we've seen happening, we've tried to be a bit intentional about that. And of course, it's really towards partnerships and responsibility as well, because you have different personalities and different relationships around money, on how you spend. We're not the same person. So it's also accommodating that. Probably one of you is wants to spend on this element, or maybe wants to live this particular lifestyle. So it's also a bit of compromises when it comes to getting to a place where we are now 25 years. Different personalities, different relationships with money. I come from a place of fear, when it comes to money, based on previous experiences, where you've had, like my mom losing her job and then not having money at some point in life. So then that was a very good lesson for me to know that if retrenchment happens, for example, which happened last year, then how do you navigate that? So, and him coming from perhaps a bit of not having experienced that, then we'll have different experiences, and that has kind of shaped our discussions as well. There are very many financial risks that women go through, and maybe even today, I was just going through a lot of data on where we are as women in the space of financial inclusion, and the data is actually very positive in terms of where we are, how Kenya has managed to close the gap for the financial inclusion between men and women. So when you have the gender aspect to this discussion, our gap is actually less than even the global gap, which is, I think it was about 1.6%. That's a very good thing in terms of having women access to finance, but that has not translated to a lot of wealth creation. And that now links to the risks, because if you do not have access to credit, for example, those are some of the risks, and how do you develop? But risks generally for women in marriages are many. I can think about debt, for example. You might be sitting pretty knowing you're working very hard. So giving an example of the two of us who are pulling money through a fund, then you have somebody taking a loan without your knowledge. And if they're not there tomorrow, you discover that perhaps there are obligations that have not been paid, or you have a circle loan that somebody took. So debt is a very big risk. Can you imagine if your matrimonial property, if it is not in your name, your husband can use it for collateral to get a loan. So debt is a very big risk, and also financial independence in marriage. So depending on if you're a caregiver, you're taking care of the children, and you don't have a very clear structure on the remuneration that you get from that, and you're just at home, then where is your financial independence? So you can lose that. And even another risk is that it's very possible that you are bringing in an income, but then you don't have a control, and that really borders on a bit of abuse where, you're working, you're bringing money to the house, but then there's a bit of restriction on how you can spend. So that's a risk. Another risk that I would think about in terms of women is, I think I've talked about the unpaid care. That's a very big one. So you pack your bags, you follow your husband to South Africa, you've given up your career, and then that's, what is the arrangement for you in this space? Also, even just the career stagnation. Sometimes you have to take flexible employment so that you can care for the family, or maybe sickness, because it's just that the social norms have given us women that responsibility. So when you look at the overall elements on financial risk, it really can be from debt, it can be from restriction on spending, it can be career stagnation where you've had to take a break. And perhaps even that one, it's applicable to me, because when my husband worked outside the country, we think cumulatively 9 years, then I had to be the main caregiver for my family. So in that case, career was not top priority for me, because then you're getting children, you're taking care of the children. So even in the office, you naturally find yourself taking a backseat and not really pushing for the next promotion. And that's a very long period in a woman's life. If you've got 4 children, that is of childbearing and then care and then the next one. So you can easily be out of the aggressive, or is it as like the phase where you need to push at work for a very long period of time. So that's also maybe not really a risk, but something that women face that will affect their, the economic situation for them.
I will definitely advise people from a legal point of view, because I've been seen cases where a spouse dies and people don't even know, how to proceed with the laws of succession. So maybe I will advise them first about jointly owning property. Yeah, because those are some of the disputes that I've come across. Of course, I work with a lot of women, and they end up being disinherited, and maybe because they didn't know their rights, they are operating from a cultural point of view that the man should do this, the man should. But hey, we are in a modern world, so I will tell them to embrace registering property in jointly, to avoid disputes. What I will also advise them is, of course, the laws of succession, and I will also tell them that they have rights under the law, and all is not lost, even if you're not. Let's say even if you're a stay-at-home mom, most people don't know that they can get, non-monetary contribution is recognized under the law. So staying at home and taking care of your children is some of the things that will be considered when you're going through a divorce. So I feel like most women also do not know their rights, and just because they stayed at home, they feel like they're going to be disinherited. They left their career behind to take care of their family, to take care of their children. And at the end of the day, they lose out. They lose out a lot. You see, now you've left your career behind. Now you are left alone. You don't know where to start from. Maybe I will advise them from maybe that point of view. Yes, to just know their rights. Yes, in case you're a divorce.
What I would tell a younger person who's getting into marriage about money, situations are very different. I would advocate for transparency. And I would tell the young people that do not shy away from money discussions, because there's a tag that comes to women when you're very vocal and talk about money. It kind of comes across like you're a gold digger. You're a gold digger, you're here to, you just are very keen on money, but your life revolves around money in so many ways. Access to social services, education, health, anything is about money. Your home. So money is really very critical in all elements, and love and money are not, they can, those discussions go hand in hand. You cannot now imagine that love is financial security. It is not. So really discussions on your visions And I'm very happy. I read about a lot of young people coming and doing, like vision boards on where they want to be. And how are you getting to that vision board? If you want to go back and do your master's, for example, if you want to go and do a specialization, it's linked to money. If you want to upgrade where you want to live, you probably want to live closer to where your children go to school. That is about money. So the money discussion needs to happen. And you should be able to assess earlier on in life and make the decision if you want to go our routes where you're thinking about, like partnerships and discussions and perhaps pulling money in a fund, or you will get to know your person and realize that here I may need to take a back step and have, like control over this until maybe what you're not happy about is sorted out. So it really depends on who you're married to. But the whole push and what is very important is not to be left in a vulnerable position as a woman where you don't have, a say about the money, where you don't have access or even just a voice, or really where whatever it is you're contributing in terms of your household support is not acknowledged. Women need to understand the value of what they bring, even if it is not paid work, like I brought in a salary or this investment, everything that we've talked about before, they need to really understand that it is a very important thing. Then where is the space of the care services that I'm giving in this relationship? Another discussion would be, of course, thinking about a rainy day. You do not want to be in a place where you have to, pull your kids out of school or you have to downgrade. So right from the beginning, this discussion of a rainy day, retirement looks very far when you're 25, when you're 30, but that is a discussion that needs to happen. And also, I would tell them that there's an age for making money. I mean, we have the outliers who make money later on in life, even in their 50s, but then the bulk of the people, there's an age where you make money. So if you're employed like we were, and you've gotten your kids, maybe as early as we did, you have a bit of a break when they're young and you're not paying too much money on school fees. But then university will come. So you may want to take your children abroad, you may want to take them to private university, even public university. There's an area where now the bill on education becomes high. You get to an age where you're now taking care of your ailing parents. And that is happening probably in the mid-40s, going to early to 50s. So these 20s, when you get a job, and 30s is a very good time for people to take an opportunity and build yourself at that time. So that is something I would really tell somebody getting into marriage. I'm like, you have time if you're a little bit younger. Yeah.
I will say I wish my mom told me more. But anyway, okay. What she has always told me is that despite everything, learn to be independent as a woman. Never depend on a man, even if they're a billionaire. So that's one thing I appreciate that she told me, and that is I'm a very independent person. Even if things go south today, I don't think I will be stuck. Yeah. So I think independence is a very important thing.
Money is just not a private discussion in a family. Money, as previously mentioned, comes into very larger topics around legal framework when it comes to inheritance and the protection. I mean, if you do not have properties in your name and your husband dies, what does that mean for you as a woman? There are a lot of gray areas, and people find themselves in a lot of trouble where you automatically thought that if your husband is dead, then the property comes to you, but it is not always the case. So the legal, understanding really what the law says around inheritance for women, or probably even men, is very critical, so that you are better prepared in the case of eventualities. So money should not be a private discussion. It is not pegged on love. This is really discussions that need to happen, and it does not mean that there's lack of trust. It's just enabling you put better structures in place and have leverage in your relationship. I think a lot of my age mates, unfortunately, we're discussing money more than love. Because number one, you've lived the life where job loss or just resources generally are becoming less and less. You find, I was looking at just friends around me. I was very surprised when I was counting how many are out of jobs in the last 3 years or 4 years, So then when you are at this age, and that's why I went back to the story of there's a time for making money when you're not too worried. I don't think you're probably too worried about retrenchments maybe at 32. And if you leave that job, you're likely to get another one. When you're 50s or late 40s, there'll probably be a younger person who's coming to take 50% of your salary. There's somebody who's more agile, who's willing to travel. You perhaps have limitations of I cannot take a job in Juba because of ABCD. So things really change. You're taking care of an ailing parent. So then we've gone through that fear. We know that whatever it is you've been able to accumulate, you have to spend it very well. So half the time, the discussions in our WhatsApp group are really money and investment. And then for women, how do you protect yourself in case of a death of your spouse or in case of a divorce? Because then you find in the same WhatsApp group, you have friends that have divorced, and maybe it did not end well in terms of the separation, in terms of the allocation of resources. So these are discussions that we are having more of money than love.